Welcome everyone to this week's Founder Chat. I'm here today talking to Mike Zouhri, who is the founder of PainWorth, which we're going to get into what PainWorth is. If you've never been to one of our Founder Chats before, we've essentially around half an hour to have a bit of a casual interview style conversation to get to know more about the origin story of PainWorth, to learn more about Mike, yourself, and what kind of tips you might have for other entrepreneurs, learn what you've been up to, your vision for PainWorth, all the little and big bits and bobs that we can learn about what you're up to. So we love putting these on. We've been putting them on for a year and a bit now, getting to know all of the founders, but a lot of the different founders in our community, which is fantastic. And I am Melanie Ewan. I'm horrible introducing myself, so remember to do that right now. I'm Melanie Ewan. I'm one of the managing partners and co-founders of Volition. So we work to build connectivity and knowledge sharing in different startup ecosystems around the globe. I'm currently in Montreal. A lot of our team's in Vancouver, but we're expanding all across the world right now. So excited to be here today. Welcome, Mike. Welcome. So before we jump in, I want to mention, I know we know you. I haven't personally met Mike, so I'm here, the same as everyone in the audience, getting to know Mike. And whether you're watching this now live or you're watching on IGTV or on YouTube later, feel free to say hello, to ask questions. And if you have a question for Mike later on, we'll make sure to get that around and back to him. But I know we've known you. We were just talking about this before we opened the show. We've known you kind of since December. And by we, I mean one of our advisors at least has known you, Miras Alen, who, as you're mentioning, is incredible, and got to work with her through the E-RIN program. And it looked like you were doing some really neat work with her. So I'm excited to get to know you. And for those who don't know PainWorth, PainWorth helps injury victims to calculate, manage, and settle their claims without the need for expensive go-betweens, is my understanding. But I'm gonna stop chitter-chattering, let's pretend that's a word, and I'm gonna pass this over to Mike. Please let us know a little bit more about yourself and what PainWorth is, and then we'll get into all the nitty-gritty details.
Yeah, sure. So as you already mentioned, my name is Mike, and I am one of the co-founders of a company based out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, called PainWorth. And we help victims calculate, manage, and settle their own personal injury cases. The project started more or less after a tragic accident that yours truly was involved in. I was hit by a drunk driver in 2019. Don't recommend that to anyone. So anyone watching this, either now or later, just heed my advice. Don't get hit by a drunk driver. It sucks. But I had that happen to me, and I spent 3 months effectively bedridden. I was rushed to the hospital, bedridden for 3 months, and left with some life-altering injuries that unfortunately will last me the rest of my life. And yeah, for anyone who kind of even conceptually understands what that situation might hypothetically even be like, you could probably imagine that I ended up with a claim. And as part of that, I ended up getting kind of trapped in this really broken settlement industry. It takes 5 years on average. It's really expensive and slow. Sometimes the communication between you and the professionals either managing your claim or working on your behalf to help settle your claim can be fragmented and troublesome at best. There's problems with it. The thing that really bothered me the most was I didn't really understand what was going on in terms of settling my own claim and getting transparency. Why is it taking so long, or why are the numbers being offered the numbers that are being offered, and so on. And nobody could give me a straight answer, which is weird because, I'm effectively, both paying for a service and being paid, but nobody had an itemization or a breakdown. Nobody could explain things. And I just got so frustrated with just, the unnecessary delays and the slowness. That was probably what bothered me the most. That I took myself down to the law library, and I honestly just learned how to settle my own case. I literally had to read some dusty old law books. The stuff isn't on the internet. You can't Google it. How much is your broken leg worth? If if you turn to Reddit, you know, the colloquialism is, you know, it's impossible to know, you know, go call up your local lawyer. And
Right.
while your local lawyer might be able to help you, it is not impossible to know. You can calculate these things. It is
Right.
definitely possible. But the information and the how-to just isn't available, which is why, you know, a lot of people sort of throw their hands up and give up. So I figured it out, and I built a system really just to help me. The system wasn't, you know, meant to be a company. I wasn't trying to start, you know, a revolution or anything like that. I was just trying to help me because I was going through a lot at the time. And I guess I made the mistake of telling people what I was up to.
Your literal pain point, yes.
Yeah, literally my pain point. And at that point, access to justice groups, a couple of them across Canada, started telling me, listen, you know, the justice system is a huge mess. Lots of people can't get access to justice, like if they live in a rural or remote community.
Exactly, yeah. And wouldn't have access to the resources you even had in the local library, and have the education to be able to get through that.
Exactly. Or if you have not enough funds to be able to hire representation, which is a common barrier for many people. Yeah. And then finally, the one that surprised me the most was if you have bad case economics, you might not be able to get access to justice. So for example, if your case is maybe $10,000 or less, oftentimes it's not worth the legal fee. So, you know, the practitioners will tell you, like, listen, it's not worth my time and energy. So you can get barricaded out. So it was really fascinating to learn that from an access to justice perspective, like all these reasons that, you know, the justice system is so slow and exclusionary for so many people.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. Like, we're talking about family law, we're talking about you know, civil cases, even criminal cases. Like, just the whole justice system is kind of a mess. So that really just sort of emboldened me to go and release the product for everyone. Yeah. So I kind of got together with my co-founder and we said, well, you know, this problem's actually something that affects lots of people. You know, many people are out in the cold about this. They don't know what to do. They have no resources. Let's make this available, and what would that look like, and what would that take? And we kind of, you know, brainstormed for a couple months, and, you know, I guess buttressed up the existing product so it could support. And yeah, the day that we launched, we had several $1 million in case claim value signed up to use the platform. So that was like sort of an incredible testament to yeah, to like just the need. Like, literally on launch day, that's how many people kind of flooded our doors saying, like, we need help. Yeah, so it was crazy.
Sorry, may I ask, when did you launch?
Yeah, so we went live with, and it's kind of a soft question, our ugly baby MVP is the way that I put it, like the thing that kind of worked but is not pretty to look at all. Yeah. In late October 2019. So this is like beginning beginning November 2019, almost 2020. Right. That's kind of when we put that first MVP, and is super ugly. It was so bad. But yeah, like, it kind of worked, but it was hard to use. It was harder to look at. Yeah. People would email me about every little thing. Like, I don't understand what this means. I didn't know how to write the form fields to make it clear to users what we needed them to do and what we needed them to fill out. Yeah. So that was a little bit of a learning curve for me as well. Just like, how do I communicate how to use the product to somebody that I'm not going to sit down with, you know? So yeah, it was an interesting problem. What I did is I really just got on the phone with as many of these early users as possible, and they really just walked me through the case. we can't provide legal advice or anything like that. So I'd have to give them sort of the boring disclaimer, like, listen, you can't ask me for advice, and I can't give you my opinions on anything about your case. I can only talk to you about like how to use the product. And you know, that was difficult for many many people because they want to ask, you know, but you know, there are rules, right? And you know, we didn't want to break any rules.
No, I know, and it must be difficult because people, I mean, this is like, there's emotional connections to our injuries, and they want to feel heard, and maybe haven't felt heard, and you're like this, you know, this product that is finally going to help them take justice back into their own hands, and so of course they want to talk to you about that. That's amazing.
And I'm a sympathizer too, right?
Exactly. And you've been through this, and
Well, exactly. Like I literally am, you know, an empathetic sympathizer because I'm the person who went through the same thing. So, you know, they have a peer now, and they want to, you know, but I can't. There are legal reasons in Canada and the U.S. that you can't provide advice if you're not a lawyer, and I most certainly am not a lawyer, so I can't do that. But in any sense, or in any case, I did talk to all of these users and sort of understand better about what they were trying to do and which points in the app were difficult to use or understand. And once I got that, I was like, well, you know, you try different ways of explaining it to them, and you'd find eventually like something that kind of clicks and makes it a little easier. And then it was just like lots of like little iteration. Those early months were all about like lots of long conversations with lots of real people and lots of small iterations until we eventually got something that's much more friendly and easier to understand. It's not perfect yet. Like, we're still not perfect, but compared to where we were, it's day and night.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love those stories. I love hearing these stories, and I want to share them far and wide, like this very real journey of getting the ugly product out and being willing to sit down and talk to your customers and understand what they're going through and what they understand and don't understand, and understanding that that's not a personal thing. It's just like understanding how to communicate. I love hearing those stories because it's so real and so something that needs to be done, and not something that everyone thinks to do all the time. So I appreciate that you took that time with your customers, and I know that since that time, I guess, you've had some incredible wins in your back pocket. I know that you recently won a global competition as the best emerging, now is it InsurTech or InsurTech product?
Yeah, InsurTech is
InsurTech. Right before I was doing this, I was like, InsurTech? How are people talking about these things these days? But anyways,
it makes me feel better. I'm learning the vernacular myself.
There you go. Best emerging InsurTech. You recently acquired your only competitor, ProSay Claim, and you crossed the $100 million in claims mark of people of 100 million claims that you've helped. That's what I have it down. So that's incredible. So just taking a moment to congratulate you on all the things.
Thank you very much.
What a year it must have been then, I guess. So yeah, walk us through some of that. What does this last year look like?
Well, it's, I think you can probably tell from the sense of like how we started. It's been sort of runaway from our perspective. Like, we really have a hard time keeping up. It's only been a year and a bit, and as you mentioned, we've already crossed, you know, sort of $100 million claims that we've helped with. That's a big number. I mean, it's a small number in terms of like the totality of claims, but like as a tiny little operation that, you know, was, you know, just building a product for myself, I mean, that's a really big number. And we hit it in a very short amount of time. I'm still blown away by that. And I'm also still blown away by this incredible underserved need. You know, like, just like in one respect, it's a testimony to our product and the usefulness of it. But in another respect, it's like a testimony to how bad the problem is
Yeah.
and how long these poor people have been suffering without a solution to help them. You know, I mean, that's crazy. It just says that there's like this incredibly large bleeding need in the justice system that has just gone ignored for so long. People are crying out for it, so that when you even get some ugly baby kind of works thing together, people just in droves fly to it. I certainly didn't expect any of that. It's been a little bit overwhelming. Some of the emails that, you know, we get, you know, are great because they're letters of thanks, but some of them are also quite harrowing to read. Like, I mean, they're heartbreaking. You see just like, you know, people who have lost everything because their claim has dragged on for, you know, in some cases 20 years. There's one email that I read recently. This poor gentleman, it's been 20 years and he still hasn't settled his claim. It's been drawn out and he can't work either. And it's like there's no end in sight for some of these people. So when we get those thank you letters, it's a pretty incredible feeling because, you know, it comes from the heart. The only other thing I was going to say before I accidentally cut you off there was I've worked in tech for a while. And when you work in tech, you know, you're sort of behind the scenes on a thing and you barely see the effect that it actually has on people. It's like pretty thankless. Like, I mean, right now we're using Instagram, but like, you know, we're not really thinking about the Instagram founders for this and whatever other apps you might have on your phone on a daily basis. You're not sort of showing gratitude, but there's like a large percentage of people who use our app and they reach out from like the bottom of their heart and they write these incredibly sincere emails just to let me personally know just how grateful they are. And like, that's pretty incredible. I didn't expect it. I sort of expected to have a thankless position, but it hasn't been the case at all.
I was going to ask, so you mentioned that you came from tech. I was curious about what your background was and therefore, like you mentioned, you didn't like intentionally build a business. So I'm curious about tips you have for other entrepreneurs, other people in tech maybe, that they come across some sort of a very real pain point and want to launch this business. You've already shared with us some of the ways that you've found success, but if there's anything else from your transition from tech to entrepreneur and growing this business, our listeners are always interested to hear your tips.
Sure. So I kind of have a history in this space, not personal injury and certainly not law or insurance, but have experience in technology and certainly entrepreneurship. I got my start really young. I actually started in nonprofits when I was a kid. I started building just sort of nonprofits, very humanitarian focused. I guess that's sort of a philosophy.
Shining through.
It's just kind of stay with me forever. I actually built sort of my first charity when I was 20. So it went national and I did a speaking tour, and that's like a really cool experience as like a 20-year-old. This is like back in like, 2008. So, like Instagram wasn't a thing back then. So, having people like show up in an audience to like hear what you have to say as like a little kid, it's kind of empowering. So I came off of that feeling like, oh, wow, like, if there are things that I want to do, I can do them. I don't have to for permission. I'm capable of manifesting and shaping, things around me. So that was sort of like my first sort of realization, and I guess it was like 20. And that led me to actually creating a digital publication when I was about 20. That one was a super lucky break for sure. We actually ended up publishing to more than 60 million readers a month. So we ended up getting a deal with MSN at the time, and people were still using Internet Explorer. So if you remember, it's a long time ago, but that was a thing that people used, and MSN was certainly the homepage. And we would content for that just through our publication. And then ended up in a men's retail brand. So we owned everything from factory to storefront. Then I started, I tried something, really crazy to do an image recognition sort of hard technology company.
Right.
And that one didn't go so well. We built some really cool stuff, but it just didn't go off the ground. And then I came out of that, and I ended up working with a good friend of mine. They were in fintech, so I ended up joining a team in fintech and working on fintech solutions for a while. And then fast forward a couple years, 2019, I get slammed by a drunk driver and sort of situation. I think the second question you asked me was...
So you have lots of entrepreneurial experience. So what are tips you have for those just starting out?
Well, 100% ask for help. It's certainly something that I didn't do when I was younger that I do a lot of now.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I just, I thought mistakenly that there was some pride in figuring it all out on your own, and being able to have all the answers. There's no that. You're just setting yourself
just wasting your own time and energy and all the things.
Time, energy, undue hardship. There's no sense in that. It's such a foolish mistake that I made when I was young. But it is true. Definitely ask for help. There's so many, especially here in Canada. I don't know. You must notice that. You work for Volition. This is your career. There's so many people out there who are just super intelligent and passionate and willing to help.
Honestly, and around the world, I found in the entrepreneur space, entrepreneurs are very happy to talk about their experiences and lessons learned. It's a very cool community to be in for that reason. It's very supportive community. Different countries in the world, you don't get as much support from government, but here, I came from working in the federal government for 10 years before I was here with Volition, and it's just even since I left in 2015, the support for entrepreneurship at all levels is just skyrocketed. So that's not all over the world, but I do find this common thread of wanting to help other entrepreneurs around the world.
Yeah, no, it's super true. I'm always very impressed just with the caliber of people who want to help. And the truth is having them wanting to help is one half of the equation. The other half is you have to accept it. So my big message is really just ask for help, but also say yes when people offer to help, even if you didn't ask. We get a lot of people who approach us and say, how can I help you? Without us even asking. I always say yes. If you meet smart, talented, passionate people and they want to help you, even if you don't know how they're going to do it, just accept the offer 100% of the time. It always, in my personal experience, has worked out very well for me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And I would love to hear also about the future of PainWorth. I know Mira made a note here saying the team has a very strong vision on how to reshape an outdated system. I'd love to know more about what is the vision for PainWorth.
Well, I think, we already sort of highlighted how broken the justice system is and how hard it is for people to get justice. Right now, we are helping victims in a very specific vertical, personal injury. And to some degree, we're also helping professionals in that vertical. It doesn't do anyone any good when the professionals are slow. So, we can help them do their jobs faster and things like that. And we do, which is great. But it is super narrow. The users on the system right now ask me for all kinds of things. They say, can you help me with my divorce? Can you help me with my WCB? Can you help me with my landlord-tenant dispute? All kinds of different areas of the civil justice system. Some of them I've never even heard of before. But the truth is, we have to land before we can expand. I do believe that once we nail this, the platform that we're building, when it's complete, can then be expanded to help people in other verticals of civil justice. I have found users have used our platform somehow, I still don't even understand how, to do things outside of the scope. One one woman had sent me a very nice email where she had explained that, and again, somehow, I don't quite know how, she used the system to settle an Alberta Human Rights Commission complaint. And like, I knew nothing about that world, like Human Rights Commission complaint. I can't answer how that works because I don't know, but yeah, they're finding creative ways to use the legal tools.
There's a need.
Because there's a need, and somehow it's applying itself. So I do think, there are ways that I don't yet understand, like the Alberta Human Rights Commission complaint. But I also think there are some things that I definitely understand, like small claims, for example, that we're going to be in a very good position to help people with in the future. Not right now, but in the future.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. So what can we as your community do to support you? What is your ask here today?
Oh, well, that's awesome that you guys have an ask like that. So I always tell people, like, the biggest and best thing that you can do to support is really just tell someone you know. Most people, especially if you live in Canada, most people know somebody who is either currently going through a situation like this, or who will in the unfortunate near future. Our winters are long and our roads are icy, so it's quite common. We are here to support those types of people. So by all means, like if you can, please keep spreading the word. It helps us figure out how to better serve people, and it helps those people who need the service. So it is something that you can do for many people by giving us sort of more people to talk to and figure out our product.
Awesome. All right. So if people are interested in learning more about PainWorth, they can head to painworth.com. And then you're also on Instagram, obviously, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at PainWorth as well. And if people wanted to connect directly with you, how might they do that?
So I am also on the social media. So you can look me up on social media at Mike Zouhri, MikeZouhri. Also on Twitter, Instagram, all your favorite social media platforms.
Fantastic. Cool. All right. So before we wrap up, and hello to those, if you've just joined us now, hello. We're just wrapping up with our last couple questions here, but this interview will live on IGTV and on YouTube as well. So make sure to go back and learn more about where PainWorth, what the roots of PainWorth and how it became just a tool for Mike to help himself get through a really difficult time and painful time in many different regards into this platform that is really transforming a lot of people's lives, it sounds like. So it's a really cool story. So make sure to go back and check that out. So Mike, is there anything that we haven't managed to touch on here today that you did want to speak about?
Actually, I feel like we covered a lot. We covered probably more than I was expecting. So I think it was quite great. Fantastic.
Got this down to an art. No, it's awesome to hear. I find like 30 minutes we can like get a bit of a teaser and understand like a little bit more about your mission, your vision, your team, what you've been doing, so that we can get behind you. And as you say, just learn more about PainWorth and share about it. So you heard Mike, if you can like, share all the things, that's always going to be very helpful to them. And what was I going to say? It left my brain, but that's okay. All right, so one last thing I always like to ask as a final question is, what is one thing that brings you joy right now?
Well, I'm going to say my significant other, for sure. Yeah, she brings me the most joy.
Fantastic. Well, thanks to her out there as well. I'm sure that having that support network is always very helpful through things like this as well.
I will say, yeah, like, I mean, building or going on a journey like this without a strong support network is incredibly difficult. There's a lot of highs in what we're doing, trying to bring access to justice for everyone. Yeah. But yeah, the road is difficult and challenging. So you need somebody in your corner, and I'm very blessed to have that person. So.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story here today. It was an absolute pleasure to get to finally meet you and to learn more about PainWorth. Once again, those watching, make sure to head to painworth.com and to find PainWorth on all the socials and to follow them, engage, learn. Because unfortunately, as Mike mentioned, often we know people or become people who need these kinds of services. So very, very interested to hear where your journey goes, Mike. I'm really excited to follow that journey and see what verticals you get into, what comes out of all these conversations that you're continuing to have with the people in your community. So thank you so much. And I'll be back here, same time, same place next week. I'll be speaking to Alexandria Yalj, and I apologize if I mispronounced that. This is the founder of Beach Now. Excited to speak with her next week. But in the meantime, again, thank you so much, Mike. And we will be sharing this on IGTV and YouTube within the next kind of day-ish.
Awesome. That sounds awesome.
Cool.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Bye, everyone.